Planning your move to Australia? The Ultimate Immigration Checklist Bundle has everything you need to stay organised and stress-free as you navigate this adventure. Get yours today at movetoaustraliatoolkit.com.
Welcome to the New Life in Australia podcast, hosted by me, Karen Bleakley, founder of smartstepstoaustralia.com. Moving to Australia with my family was a life-changing experience, but it wasn't without its challenges. That's why I'm passionate about making the relocation and resettlement process easier for you so you can enjoy this exciting adventure. Join me and my special guests as we share professional secrets and tips, learn from people who've made the move, and discover businesses that can help you realise your dreams. Now is the best time to create the life you've always wanted. This podcast is here to show you what's possible and to inspire you every step of the way. Let's go.
Let's take a moment to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi people, the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which I live, work and play. I thank them for the privilege of being able to live in such an incredible part of the world, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the New Life in Australia podcast. This week I am talking again about bucket list experiences. In this week's episode I'm going to be talking all about choosing a Whitsunday Island cruise. Now, if you don't know about the Whitsundays are in North Queensland. It's an absolutely stunning part of Australia, and it's an area that I really, really encourage everybody to go to. When we were backpacking around Australia, it was really one of the two highlights, I would say. We travelled up the east coast, we did the centre, and we travelled down the west coast. So we did quite a lot of travelling during our trip. And the two big highlights, one was Uluru and the other one was our Whitsunday Island cruise. It really is one of those bucket list experiences that I just think everybody in Australia needs to do at least once in their life. But I also know from experience, having now done two of them, that it can be really overwhelming trying to figure out which cruise to book and what you need to consider when it comes to booking the cruise. So I hope this little episode gives you a little bit of guidance and help during the process of trying to decide on your Whitsunday Island cruise. Now, where are the Whitsundays? The Whitsundays are islands that are off the coast of North Queensland. You leave and depart from Airlie Beach. It's a really fun, vibrant little beach town. I really, really do love it there. It's a really stunning spot for a holiday. It's a lot of fun. There's quite a lot to do. It's quite vibrant. There's lots of young people there, lots of students. It's really buzzing, lots of restaurants and cafes and things like that. It's just a really, really cool holiday destination. But while you're there, the most important thing, in my opinion, is you must get out on the water. You must go on a Whitsunday Island cruise. Now, whether you go for a longer cruise or you just go for a day cruise or a half-day cruise, we'll cover all of that in this podcast episode anyway. But whatever you do, you need to make sure that you get out on the water, because that is where the really spectacular scenery is and most of the memories will be made out there. So first things first, there are different types of cruises that you can do. You can go on day cruises, you can go on half-day cruises, you can go on cruises that go for a night or 2 nights or 3 nights. And they all have a really different vibe. So the first thing I would say when it comes to choosing your Whitsunday cruise is to think about what experience you want to have. How long do you have available? How many people are going? And what are you looking for in your cruise? So as an example, when my husband Matt and I were backpacking, we knew that we really wanted to go and spend some time on a cruise and stay overnight on a boat. We didn't want to go on a party boat. We wanted a boat that had a real mix of families and different ages on the boat. We weren't big partying kind of people. We just wanted something that would be really fun. So when it comes to looking for your overnight cruising adventure, as I say, there are lots of boats that are really aimed at really young people, kind of 18, 20-year-olds that just kind of want to go and have fun and party. But there's also lots of different trips for different age groups in between as well that really do attract a broad range of different people on the cruise. So when we were going on our cruise, we knew we wanted to book a double cabin with ensuite bathroom. That was something that we really, really valued. We really, really wanted. There were cruise options where you can stay in like a dorm kind of cabin of like 4 or 6 people. So we were looking for one specifically that had a double cabin with a bathroom attached to it. So that narrowed down our options. It made it a little bit easier. We also knew that we only had a limited amount of time available to us because we were backpacking and we had to return our motorhome. So we were looking for something that was 2 or 3 nights long. And again, that really helped narrow down our options to just a few cruise options. We ended up going on a tall ship, and it was an amazing trip. It was such a fun trip. And I really, really do think it was one of the highlights of our trip around Australia. We really loved it, and it was worth every penny. Now, when it came to going back to the Whitsundays last year with my family, we were in a different situation. There were 5 of us this time. We also had limited time available to us. We had booked annual leave. We had our dog booked into pet sitters. We'd also booked some various accommodation around it. So we knew that we wanted to stay in various different spots at different times of the trip because we did it as part of a road trip. So we were only able to either consider a day trip or an overnight trip. But again, with 5 of us, it was proving a bit more tricky for the overnight trip because we really wanted, again, privacy with accommodation. So we would have been looking for a treble room and a double room. And that was a bit more difficult to arrange and to find during the time that we were actually going. So we ended up deciding that we wanted to do a day cruise in the end because it suited our timing more. When it came to choosing a day cruise, oh my goodness, there were so many, and I spent days going round and round in circles trying to figure things out. But really, what I needed to do was just take a step back and work out what we did want from the trip and what we didn't want from the trip. Now, in terms of day cruises, there are options for speedboat cruises, there's big boats, there's sailing boats, there's trips that go to different locations. And really what I needed to do was just sit down and write down what was important to us for the trip. For us, we wanted to have maximum time on the beach at Whitehaven Beach. We wanted to visit Hill Inlet. Not all of the day cruises visit Hill Inlet, so you need to make sure that if that is really important to you, that's where you go for the hike. You go up high and you see the most incredible views. That's where all the views that you see of the swirly kind of white sand and the lagoons and the beautiful views are. So if you want to see that, make sure that your cruise includes that. If it doesn't mention it, it doesn't include it. That's at a different spot to where you stop for Whitehaven Beach. So as I say, not all of the cruises include that. Lots of cruises include snorkeling. It wasn't something we were bothered about doing on this particular trip, so we narrowed that down. Some trips do trips to like 3 snorkeling spots or 2 snorkeling spots. But in doing that, then you're reducing your time that you might have on Whitehaven Beach, or it maybe cuts out visiting Hill Inlet. So you've got to kind of weigh up what are the things that are really important to you for the trip. So what kind of boat do you want to go on? What's important to you? What do you want to include on the trip? And then that really does help you narrow things down. When it comes to actually choosing a provider for the trip, there's a few things to think about here. Consider what the cancellation policy is for booking the trip, because weather can be really changeable depending on what time of year you're going. If it's really bad weather, and say like with us, there were 5 of us going, the trip was around $1,000 for the day trip. That's a lot to spend if the weather is going to fail and be really rainy or not very good. Now, we would have probably still gone anyway if the weather wasn't great, but it was really valuable to know that you had the option for cancelling if you needed to at the last minute. Also, you never quite know, especially when you're travelling with kids, if somebody was to fall sick and we had to cancel 1 or 2 of our places on the boat. It's just good to know that you don't lose that money. Or if you are booking something that doesn't involve cancellation, then maybe making sure that you've got adequate travel insurance that would cover it if you did need to take a cancellation hit. So I will pop a link in the show notes about the cruise that we ended up doing. As I say, we worked out that what was really important to us was maximum beach time. We wanted a big boat because we had people in the group that get quite seasick. We wanted to do Hill Inlet. We wanted to have some time to hike and to really enjoy the surroundings without feeling rushed. We really enjoyed our trip. It was a real highlight of our road trip last year, and the kids still talk about it and say what an incredible day out it was. Of course, if budget is available to you, then there's all kinds of amazing extra experiences that you can add on. You can do flights over the Whitsundays, which would just be amazing because I'm sure the views would be incredible. Obviously, traveling with a family of 5, those kind of costs add up really quickly. So, as I say, a day cruise for us was sort of looking in the $700 to $1,000 kind of mark. But actually, staying over in an overnight cruise was not as expensive as you might think, given that you'd be paying for accommodation anyway if you stayed on the mainland for an extra night. If you can stay overnight, I really do think it is an amazing experience. Even better, you can actually hire a boat out in the Whitsundays where you do a bit of training beforehand and they actually give you a boat that you can take off and do your own trip. That would be really amazing. But if you're shorter on time like we were slotting it into a bigger road trip. A day cruise is still amazing. It is still really worth doing and it will be a hugely memorable trip. Just one last quick thing, just what to take on your Whitsunday Island cruise adventure. Obviously, you want to pack a towel, sunglasses, sunscreen. Do not forget to reapply sunscreen literally every hour. It doesn't matter if you applied it half an hour ago, put more on, you will burn. All of us burned, even though we were being really careful on our last trip because we know how harsh the sun is. For all of us, we wore rash vests when we were at the beach or when we were out and about. Really important. The kids wore like their fishing shirts so that they had their arms and necks covered. Big hats, wide brim hats. Take water bottles. The boat that you're on will have somewhere that you can keep refilling those water bottles all the time. You dehydrate really quickly. It is insanely hot in the Whitsundays if you go in the summertime. We were there in December. It was really hot. Literally the second you step outside, you get hit by the heat. So water is really important. Obviously, you'll be wearing your swimmers to go on the trip as well so that you're ready to jump in the water. And don't forget your camera because the views are insanely beautiful. If you're given a stinger suit, my advice is to wear it. It's not worth not wearing it and taking the risk of getting stung by stingers during stinger season. You want to take their advice. They have stinger suits available on all the cruises, so that's usually included in the fee as well. So don't worry about the stingers in the water. You can get in the water and have a beautiful time. So I hope this episode helped you plan your future Whitsunday Island cruise. Just do your research, think about what's important to you. If you have time, an overnight stay or a few nights on the cruise is amazing. You will have the best experience, honestly, and you will never forget it. But if you can only afford a day, do a day. That's also fine. You can make sure that the day cruise that you choose includes all of the things that are most important to you. Happy travel planning, and let's get building your new life in Australia one episode at a time.